Hello, everybody, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live for May 18th, 2021. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, and I am the president of W3 Consulting and the managing director of W3C Web Services, which provides affordable web and managed WordPress hosting, as well as domain name registration and other web-related services for small business. Web and Beyond Live is a weekly show about topical and timely small business digital marketing and related issues. Pretty much all the things I'm tracking from week to week that I think will be useful to small business owners and to help them really market and manage on the web and beyond today. So if you're joining me here for the live show, welcome. Feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I will try to chat back with you as we make our way through today. If you're watching or listening to the replay, feel free to leave comments or email me with questions, and I'll be happy to help you go get to that answer, hopefully get you closer to the answer from there. Today's episode is all about social media updates. We're going to be talking about all of the various social media items that I've been following throughout the past few weeks to almost a month. And so we are going to cover those pieces. We've got a lot to cover, so I just want to jump right into it and start off with some Pinterest news. We are then going to make our way through each of the social media, social networks that are out there and kind of go from there. So we're going to go from Pinterest today. Let me just go through here. So we're going to go from Pinterest to a little bit of LinkedIn news, to then TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. We're going to talk about Snapchat and Twitter and YouTube, and then close out with some miscellaneous items from some other little social network news that I want to be able to cover as well. So let's start with our first item, which is that Pinterest is actually testing a new live streaming functionality. As you can imagine, just like all of the other social networks, they're out there trying to make themselves more appealing to users, and that means having all the features of all of the other platforms. Pinterest has been one of the slowest to kind of do the keeping up with the Joneses activities, but they're clearly and probably feeling that pressure, and so they are adding live streaming functionality to the platform. And they're going to do that by hosting an event to showcase their capabilities in that space. And so they'll be hosting an event this coming Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And you could do that by going to pinterest.com/live-session, pinterest.com/live-session. And this is available only on mobile. So it's only available inside the Pinterest app. And so I don't know quite how you get there. Presumably, they're going to show you this inside the application, maybe if you follow the Pinterest profile. But you can see here that they have Monday, the 25th, the 26th here as little cards at the top, and those take you to the various live streams that are going to be happening. You can click on Remind Me here. So I would just come to pinterest.com/live-session on the desktop and then click the Remind Me here. That's what I've done. And so now I will get notified when people are going live, so that we can then get the notification within the Pinterest app, and then it'll just kind of prompt me to go there. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these items in here. And if you want to do better handstands in 30 minutes, those kinds of things. But an at-home spa night, that sounds good. But either way, they're going to be showcasing their live streaming platform there. They're also hosting another event upcoming called the Pinterest Creators Connect. They have done this before. You can find that by going to pinterestcreatorsconnect.com, I believe, and it forwards it on to this event registration page, if I recollect. Let's see. No, it looks like you have to actually go to pinterestcreatorsconnect.splashthat, THAT, splashthat.com, and that will take you to the Pinterest Creators Connect. That's going to be on May 27th. And so in essence, you're going from May 24, 25, 26, and then fourth day of Pinterest events on Pinterest Creators Connect. And there they'll be having different experts talking about how they are utilizing Pinterest as their platform for being able to generate awareness, being able to drive traffic, and then, of course, producing sales. So very, very cool. And looking forward to seeing what Pinterest has to say about that. Also, Pinterest has recognized that clearly their ads manager is a wee bit complicated. And so they have decided to put together this guide on Pinterest Business. I'll put a link to this in the description and in the show notes that helps you understand the basics of the Pinterest ads manager. And they give this very kind of brief but useful overview of how to get through the ads manager and understand how to utilize the various tools. The good part is that if you've run Facebook ads, Google ads, or otherwise, you have a fairly good understanding of the three dimensions of the funnel. That is awareness, consideration, and conversion, so that you're able to go through the system and see the way in which they've designed the various parts of the ad objectives. And so once you've chosen your objective, then you can start to target and decide on who you're trying to target within the system, and then all of the finer detail options for being able to get the ad finally budgeted and scheduled. So they give you some nice tips here for being able to get yourself up and running. And so I just think it's useful to have a guide like this. And so I just highly recommend you check out the guide if you are thinking about running ads on Pinterest. Next up is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, of course, wants to be able to help all kinds of folks who want to be successful on the platform. But LinkedIn Marketing has put out this guide for helping you understand B2B thought leadership on the platform. And so they've put together this flywheel, which is in essence a different framework for looking at the typical way in which we see either a sales cycle or a sales funnel. It's kind of an updated version of that, although I still tend to rely on the sales funnel concept. The flywheel, according to some people, is a better way to think about it. And so these have been put together into a guide that you can go ahead and grab, and you can read it in this infographic that they've provided here as well. So they really give you this infographic that helps to identify the ways in which you can put thought leadership out there in a B2B framework, in a B2B mindset. So I think it's a really good perspective. They talk about having the appropriate amount of white space, relevance, vision, trust, brevity, and attribution. So they have these 6 different traits that they are working to be able to help people understand. And by virtue of that, going through and really putting the right content onto LinkedIn to be able to make your particular outcomes. So I know it's something that I will be very closely watching and reading through this particular pocket guide. But if you are in the B2B space, it's certainly something to check out. Moving on to TikTok, just briefly, TikTok has begun testing in-app shopping capabilities. And while there aren't many details in the system about this, the reality is that ByteDance, which is the company that owns TikTok, they are up against Facebook and Google and others, Shopify, you name it, and they want to start moving in that space of being able to monetize the platform. And so they're bringing some social commerce capabilities to the platform. And so, the goal is to figure out how to monetize in a social world, in a social space effectively. And with TikTok especially, it seems like a really more difficult component. So we'll see what happens, but just know that they are testing some in-app shopping capabilities, and that's something you should be thinking about if you have a product business. What would that look like if you were going to run TikTok organic content that could lead to sales versus just running TikTok ads, which is my current recommendation to folks, is just run ads, because doing all of the work for TikTok is not as, is if you like it and it's fun, fine. But for the most part, I'm much more interested in just getting to the final, point, which is getting in front of TikTok users, which run the gamut now. It's not just kids. We have a wide variety of ages that are on TikTok. And the work of putting into and creating TikToks for organic traffic is, for me, as a small business owner, not worth it. So I just rather run ads on a platform like TikTok. But you might decide that as we now have Instagram Reels and Snapchat has their own version of Reels, and YouTube has their own version of Reels. Now they call YouTube Shorts, and we have more and more platforms, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, having the same type of short form portrait-based video content, that perhaps you will want to start utilizing that format for creating video. Then maybe you would do more of the TikTok style videos, and that would then lead to organic traffic and potentially in-app shopping ads that you can go ahead and push. So just kind of think through the strategy there for yourself as to whether or not that makes sense. Next up is some news related to Instagram. Instagram has now provided a new function under your profile to be able to choose your personal pronouns. And so for those folks who do not ascribe to the typical binary pronouns for gender, they now have the ability to go in and identify the pronouns that they want to show in the system. And it's just another move for them to be more inclusive and give folks options in the platform. And so kudos to them for that. Instagram has also added a new option for an audio or video, for an audio only IG live broadcast. So now on Instagram, when you go live, you can now go live audio only. Before, if you turned off your video, it just turned off everything, and so you just went silent. But there are times when you don't want to be on screen, but you're still in a live stream. And this is one of those cases where Instagram is really providing a great option here. So you can now be on a live stream, be with 3 other participants, 4 up on screen at the same time. And if you needed to, you could go off video and still be on audio and talk to folks while things are happening. So I think that's a really great way now. Again, this is probably a step in the direction to compete with Clubhouse, but the reality is that we are in a space where Twitter now has Twitter Spaces, which is an audio broadcasting space. You can take people into a room, have people who are listening in to a conversation, and you can bring multiple people up onto the quote unquote stage and have that kind of audio broadcast environment. Facebook is doing the same thing. Reddit has launched their own. Discord has launched their own platform for doing that. And LinkedIn is also working on an audio format. And now Instagram Live has brought themselves to the fore. By the way, LinkedIn, if you're watching, please give me access to LinkedIn Live. It has been more than a year and a half, and I have been with the platform since the beginning. So really, LinkedIn, get your LinkedIn Live stuff together. That being the case, on the Facebook side of things, Facebook has brought to the platform a feature that Twitter actually has, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But Twitter had this feature. Actually, I could talk about it now then, since I have these 2 pieces together. So I'll bring this little bit of Twitter news over to here, which is, where is my little Twitter news about this? Tweeting with consideration. So Facebook has enabled a feature that Twitter had created, which is the idea that you're going to see now when you are on tweets, the ability for you to be able to review the content before you tweet it. And this is not just for content like so they started this out. I'm sorry. So they started this out with what Facebook is doing right now, which is when you go to share an article, it will now prompt you and say, hey, do you want to read this before you share it? Because many times people share content that they haven't yet read, and that content potentially contains things that they don't necessarily they're not necessarily supporting or agree with, or they don't actually know what the contents of what's saying. Maybe sometimes it's low quality content, but the headline and the image look good, so they share it, but then ultimately the underlying content is not great. And so Twitter started that. They basically launched a feature where if you just clicked retweet on a tweet that linked to an article, it would say, hey, would you like to read this first? Facebook is now doing that here. You can see that they're prompting you with, you're about to share this article without opening it. Sharing articles without reading them may mean missing key facts. Would you like to open the article, or would you like to continue sharing? And so it's just fine-grained, detailed facilitation of, hey, are you really interested in doing this or not, kind of thing. And I think it's a good behavioral intervention. Well, Twitter has taken this to the next step. So they started with those prompts to be letting people know that they may or may not want to retweet something without reading it. But now what they're doing is they're looking at the tweets, and they are just normal tweets, just a regular tweet that you are writing, and it's identifying content in the tweet that they may consider potentially harmful or offensive and break their terms of service regarding hate speech, bullying, harassment, or otherwise. And now what you're going to do is that if it has an insult, strong language, or other kinds of hateful remarks, it's going to prompt you and say, hey, are you really sure you want to send this? And if you continue yes, then you are kind of willfully considering your actions, and therefore, when you get blocked or taken down, it's not as big a deal to the individual who's putting out that hateful speech or whatever. And so Twitter is making this next step. I hope Facebook goes the next step as well here with this concept of posting with consideration and prompting you and saying, hey, our algorithms have predetermined that you may want to give this a second look before you do this, and maybe put out, anti-vaccination or other kinds of pseudoscience or hate speech, or those other kinds of racist remarks. I think this is good for us. I think this is good for all of us to be able to at least get a gut check from the algorithms. You may still decide I'm going to go forward and I can defend what I'm saying, but this is not a free speech issue. This is a private platform. These are all private platforms that we are communicating on, and they have a right and to some extent a responsibility to a healthy ecosystem for its users. And so I like the idea of us getting that kind of algorithm check, so to speak, to let us know whether or not we're tweeting the right things. Something that people don't know is that Facebook also has something called Workplace by Facebook, and Workplace by Facebook is the business form of Facebook, in essence. So they have grown to 7 million paid users and that means that's up 40% over the last year. And so they went from when they launched in 2019 at 2 million users to now 7 million users here in May 2021. And that's remarkable growth. And clearly this is one of those cases where it's like, pandemic related growth, because more and more people went digital in the face of the COVID-19. And so, Workplace by Facebook gives all of these tools for communicating live video, giving people the ability to have all of the private groups and so on and so forth for the company inside of a Facebook-like experience. And that clearly is something that appeals to some people, including having a knowledge library. There's some really interesting pieces that they've put into Workplace by Facebook. It is not for me, but it is great that there are people who are being productive on Facebook utilizing Workplace by Facebook, and kudos to Facebook for continuing that space. Okay. Next up is Workplace by Facebook also put out a new guide on 6 steps to use live video for effective company events. And it's a really good guide. It's just a little 10-pager, really 9 pages of content total. And while I'm not going to go over all the pieces, it is one of those things where if you're thinking about doing a live stream, it's very, very helpful to just run through the 6 steps that they provide to get you started in and on the company event. And so you don't need to be using Workplace by Facebook in order to be able to utilize these skills, these steps. So I'll put a link to this in, again, the description and the show notes for you to be able to access, but definitely worthwhile checking out. Okay, moving right along from Workplace by Facebook onto the local communities on Facebook. I think this is going to be really, really powerful for local businesses. What Facebook is doing is creating something called Facebook Neighborhoods. And this is the challenger to Nextdoor. So Nextdoor is a social network for neighbors. And it kind of is what Yahoo Groups was at one time, and other platforms that try to tailor to local audiences. And so if you have a local community email list, you had a Yahoo group at some point, maybe that went to a Google group once Yahoo Groups kind of went away. Lots of people have been utilizing these spaces. Now there are many Facebook groups that are dedicated to neighborhoods or local communities and that kind of thing. And now Facebook Neighborhoods is bringing that all together into a seamless space for neighbors. And of course, that means that local businesses are a center point of many neighborhoods. And what Facebook Neighbors will do is it will become this new section within the Facebook app. And you can, in essence, tell people that you are in this neighborhood, and now you can engage with neighbors, engage with local groups, and of course, discover new places, those new places being your business. So if you have a local business, you want to make sure that you are engaging and taking advantage of not only being a neighbor, but also being a neighborhood business inside of those places to get those local recommendations and getting those kinds of touch points where people are posting about your business. It's really, really powerful social proofing when people are posting about your business in these kinds of silos that are dedicated to your locality, your local community, your neighborhood. So keep an eye on this Facebook Neighborhoods. We're going to be keeping an eye on it definitely for our clients. And we want to make sure that you're paying attention as well. Okay. Next up, we are going to go. So for the record, Facebook Neighborhoods is currently rolled out in Canada, but of course we'll see this roll out broader over time. Just a quick note that Facebook's oversight board this past month did make a decision to uphold the ban against our former U.S. president, and they, of course, really punted it back to Facebook, saying that they didn't provide clear enough guidance regarding what the rules of the road are for people in terms of violations, and certainly not what the rules of the road are for this oversight board. This is all politics and kind of nonsense in the Facebook space. Ultimately, Zuckerberg, who is the CEO of Facebook, needs to put down some clear rules on what violates the terms of service on the platform and abide by those. And so at the present moment, they've decided to ban the former president, and that of course deplatforms him the same way that it did with Twitter, and I think rightfully so. No matter what your political persuasion is, it should be very reasonable that a president shouldn't encourage an armed insurrection of our capital. And so if you cannot believe that and understand that that's a line in the sand, then you maybe shouldn't be on social media. So so I'm fine with the oversight board upholding the decision. And I hope they continue to work out what is right and what is good for you. Again, the point here for small business is that you need to be abiding by those terms of service. And when you see those violation flags show up, it'll show you those yellow or red violation flags. You need to pay attention to them, because when they take down your Facebook page, it doesn't come back up quickly or easily. So you need to make sure that you're doing the right things. Continuing on with Facebook news, Facebook has introduced a new mini player that streams Spotify podcasts, well, Spotify generally, but more importantly, Spotify podcasts into the Facebook application. This is incredibly powerful, and I think will be very good for podcasters. And so if you have a podcast, make sure that you have submitted your podcast to be fed into Spotify, because what it means is that in the near future, people will now be able to interact and engage with your podcast directly where they are in Facebook. And so if they're in Facebook, say that you have a Facebook group for your podcast, now you have the ability to tie those pieces together and give people a more customized experience. Of course, I would not, put too many eggs in the Facebook basket, but this is a nice medium ground where you don't get to lose your RSS feed. You don't have to upload directly to Facebook or anything else like that. I know that Facebook has some interest in doing that. I would never host my podcast in Facebook. You want to have an independent feed that you can distribute widely to many other places. But the notion here of being able to stream your Spotify podcast feed to the Facebook app just gives greater access to your podcast to an audience. And so they're much more likely to find your podcast because they're searching Facebook, and they're much more likely to listen to it because it's convenient and they don't have to, say, download a separate new podcast application if you're the only podcast that they are listening to. So this is, I think, a good addition to the ecosystem. Next is some news about Snapchat. I don't watch any of these, but they are here, which is good. Snapchat has launched a new set of Snap originals that are coming out. But more importantly, down at the bottom of this notification, they actually noted the launch of a marketplace. And so the marketplace, just reading what they wrote here, because this is all really helpful. It says, quote, Creator Marketplace will give businesses an opportunity to leverage the expertise of AR creators in Snap's Lens network and to build compelling AR experiences. Eventually, the Creator Marketplace will also offer the ability to reach our entire community of creators and Snap stars and partner with them on advertising campaigns and brand activations, end quote. This is phenomenal. We need to be utilizing our augmented reality, and the Snap and Snapchat have really mastered this currently with regard to creation of augmented reality type content. And so the creation of the Creator Marketplace really binds the businesses with partners on the platform to be able to get that content created in a way that promotes the business and the business owners don't have to become AR experts. So I think this is a nice toe dipped in the water. Of course, eventually, as they said, more and more businesses will have access to the other creators and snap stars on the platform, which means that they'll be able to create non-AR type advertising campaigns, but they're just starting off with AR, and I think that's a really good place for them, since that is their strength. That's their kind of current place where they are strongest in the ecosystem among the various social networks. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what those partnerships look like with the AR creators and their success out there in the market. And if you have a product-based business, say, for example, you want your AR creators to do a fashion show where they are placing, AR images, augmented reality images of your clothing, for example, on them and doing like a fashion show, you could do that stuff and partner with them to make that happen. And so there's just some really, really powerful things here that can be done. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what creative things happen. So good on them for that. Snap also put together a consumer report, and I'm not going to go over it here because we don't really have time for it. But the idea here is that they put together this global report on augmented reality, and like in just like the briefest sense of it, augmented reality is here. People are already using it. They are using it in droves, and we need to embrace it as small business. So their whole launch of this creator marketplace is their first toe in the water of really dominating in a space that I think a lot of people are not paying attention to. When I published Solomo Success in 2014, one of the last chapters talked about the future of small business digital marketing. And I talked about how augmented reality and virtual reality were really going to be the future, because we have the ability to place anything anywhere and people will buy digital products. They will also want to see physical products in an augmented reality or virtual reality space. And here is Snap really making that a reality for many businesses. So this is not to be just dismissed as, oh, well, I don't understand the technology, or I don't really know what or how to do it. Really look to what Snap is doing and start looking at all of the technologies. Amazon is already doing this. Walmart is already doing this. Target is already working on this. And so if those big retail commerce platforms are doing it, small business needs to find the technology. It's out there, and start making that happen in their own retail experiences, both online, but also in their mobile applications. You don't have a mobile application, you say? Well, you better, and very soon. You need to start figuring that stuff out. And it's very easy now today to launch a mobile application. And I think a lot of people think that it's more difficult than it really is. So this global report is really good, and it's worth diving into when you get a chance. Okay, next up is Twitter. Oh, so Twitter is now going to be releasing their new verification request form. And so we talked about this last year, where we talked about the fact that Twitter was going to be reopening their verification process to get that little blue check. Well, in the coming days, we're going to now see Twitter opening up the new verification form, and they identify for us what accounts are eligible to be able to get the checkbox and the process for being able to do that. So what I would suggest you do is to keep paying attention to the verification form down here in the help space. If you click on that link, you'll be taken to the verified form item, and they're going to keep updating this to let people know once they are announcing and relaunching the verification. And so either pay attention to the blog or otherwise, because we are soon going to see them open up the platform for new verifications, and you want to be able to get that blue check if you want to get that blue check. So next up, Twitter is looking to launch some e-commerce on the platform. And so they announced recently that they were going to be adding a shop button akin to the one that's shown here on the screen, but it's just basically a blue shop button below the tweets. And so we're going to see more and more opportunities to be able to do social commerce on platforms. Now, just like with Instagram shops, just like with Pinterest shoppable pins, Facebook shops, and as we talked about earlier with TikTok and their in-app shopping, we're going to see more and more social commerce. This is still nascent territory. I am still not very excited about the idea of social networks bleeding and blurring the lines between what is commerce and what is socializing on their platforms, but we're going to see it happen. So we need to, as business owners, adapt and adopt the technology that's going to be most effective for our businesses. So I'm going to be paying attention. This may be lightweight enough that it's not going to really hurt any businesses' existing e-commerce structures, more like what Instagram and Facebook, which are doing, which are trying to supplant and really take over your e-commerce. I don't want anyone doing that. You really should have your own e-commerce. You should have your own ability to be able to sell independent of one platform. And so I really don't like that idea of what Facebook is doing and what Instagram is doing in terms of shops. I think it's effective for somebody who maybe is selling one or two products. They don't depend upon it for their primary income, and they don't have the technology ability to make that happen independently. For everybody else, you should be putting in the time and effort to creating an e-commerce separate from something like a Facebook, where they can now have control over your income. They have control over your presence. They have a control over too many pieces of the puzzle here. It looks like Twitter is just taking you to an e-commerce solution to make a purchase from a shop button, and I think I can get behind that. So we'll see what happens with regard to that. Has acquired a number of new companies over the past year. One of them was Review, which is a newsletter subscription service so that people can send newsletters and have people subscribe to email newsletters. You can send newsletters. It's very easy in the platform. Well, now they've acquired a new company called Scroll, which also included a company that was owned within it called Nuzzle. I used Nuzzle for tracking news and other kinds of things, and it's really sad to see that Nuzzle is going to go away because I think it stopped working. I'll have to look on my system now to see if Nuzzle is still working, because the last time I heard it had stopped working for some people. And so, so it says here, unable to reach Nuzzle. Sorry, we're unable to reach Nuzzle at this time. Please contact us if you continue to have issues. So I think Nuzzle is dead in its independent form. And that means that Scroll, which is the company that owned Twitter and really was how you could like read articles and really make a seamless experience for reading news. They are going to be blended into the Twitter creator ecosystem, the creator tools. And so more and more Twitter is looking to see how they can diversify their revenues and create more revenue opportunities for creators, probably mostly news journalists and media creators, those kinds of folks who want to be able to do that. But I've looked at Twitter for my own newsletter, my personal newsletter, and looking to see how I can use Review as a mechanism for being able to, launch a newsletter easily and get the word out to folks. And if it's built into Twitter, just like Twitter Spaces is built into Twitter, it's going to be just easier for me to be able to utilize those platforms. And since Twitter is my social network of choice, it's going to be much more likely that I use something like Review and Scroll and Spaces than I am to use Clubhouse or other tools outside of the platform. So interesting to pay attention to and look forward to that. Continuing the creator revenue tools argument that Twitter is trying to make, in the sense that creators should stay and use because they are giving them mechanisms for making money. They have created something called the tip jar. The tip jar, in essence, gives a link to a PayPal link, is a link to your PayPal account that allows you to go ahead and tip, send small amounts of money to creators. So this tip jar is interesting. The problem is already a security one, because what it did was if you tipped a creator on Twitter, it actually shared their name, address, and other personal details with them when they did do it, because it's PayPal and PayPal shares that information. And so it was a little bit of a weird experience for folks. I'm sure that Twitter will clean this up and make it a little bit better of an experience, but just know that Twitter is going this route of being able to help people monetize content. And I see that across the board. We've seen that with Facebook and Instagram. They're doing not as much there. I feel like they could and should do more. YouTube has already been a really strong advocate of monetizing and then paying their creators on the YouTube platform. I think they could also do better, but they're doing a pretty good job of remunerating creators on the YouTube platform. Well, now we're seeing this happen on Twitter as well, and it's a welcome movement. I think that more people need to be able to be paid for the content they're creating when the content they're creating is their work. Different than us trying to promote a business. If we're trying to create content as the business, then we should be able to identify what we want to monetize and what we don't. And then last up in the Twitter news is that Twitter Spaces is here. I am so excited about this. You have no idea. So all of you may know that I've talked about Clubhouse in the past, and that Twitter Spaces was kind of in the works and coming soon, that kind of thing. And some people were seeing it in beta. Well, now I have access to it in my account, and I'm super, super excited to start doing these live audio conversations on Twitter. I'm going to be testing it out in my own personal productivity space. And so I'll be hosting some in my personal account and seeing how the Twitter Spaces works and kind of doing all that stuff. And maybe I'll be testing out and doing more in the Web and Beyond community utilizing Spaces. So stay tuned, but I'm very excited about this. I think this is going to be a really, really great step in the right direction. And you'll note that I was a little bit hesitant and maybe a little bit bearish on the concept of Clubhouse. And that's purely because it's a new platform. And if you want to dive in and spend a lot of time on a platform like Clubhouse, go for it. That's up to you. But for me, it's all about the efficiency of the time I put into the business and my return on my time for that. I really wish that acronym was not ROT, but return on time is a really important metric for me. And I want to make sure that the time I'm putting into a platform is coming out and paying dividends. And so that return on investment of my time is really important. And so we need to figure out what that means in terms of spaces where it is real-time audio, right? So if I spend an hour in a space, it's a real hour of my life, and I don't get to utilize that in some other way, except that in Spaces you can record, in Clubhouse you cannot. So it can pay dividends down the road, because if I do a Spaces event, now that can be something recorded and utilized elsewhere, and that really opens up the doors for me in terms of my return on time invested. So Roti, I love Roti. It's it's delicious. So maybe I'll use that as my new acronym for return on time invested. So return on time invested is now greater, and because the recorded content can be utilized elsewhere, Clubhouse, and I respect their decision to not record the audio events, just for me limits its efficacy, because I do want to record them and utilize them, say, as a podcast, later on down the road, or in some other mechanism that's useful to me in marketing. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how Twitter Spaces works. And of course, Facebook and Discord and Reddit and others have now come onto the platform. Of course, eventually LinkedIn, if they really get social rooms right on the LinkedIn platform, that would also be highly effective to many of us like me who are in B2B. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing LinkedIn rooms and what that looks like. But considering the fact that I'm, as I noted earlier, griping about the fact that I haven't gotten my LinkedIn Live yet provisioned on my account, it's taken them a year and a half to get mine provisioned. I can only imagine that everyone else who has applied has been waiting as well. And when are they going to get social audio rooms set up, and will they follow that same process, which could mean I don't see social rooms for another year. And that's a possibility. And, my business isn't going to wait around for LinkedIn to get their act together. So I'm likely to, dig into Twitter Spaces if it works for my business. And then LinkedIn ultimately ends up being superfluous. Okay. I wanted to note, and some YouTube news before I go into just some random other items to close out. YouTube has launched their first ever beauty festival. That was on May 4th, May 14th. So it has already passed. But the good part is that it's YouTube. So it's all recorded. And so you should be able to go back and watch all of the past items from the YouTube video links that are available here. So they have these embedded YouTube videos. You can go ahead and click on all of the various sessions that are down here, and you can go ahead and watch the event. Okay, so you can see who all the people were. It was free. If you go to youtube.com/fashion, it'll take you over to the space, and you can go ahead and check it out, and then tweet and post and comment along with the hashtag. I think it was BeautyFest, and engage in the conversation there. So yeah, BeautyFest was the hashtag there. So if you are in the fashion space or the beauty space, this is a really great opportunity to get some exposure for the business by engaging in the conversation. Even though that this is past, you can still engage in the conversation and let folks know that you're out there. This will create some brand awareness for you by doing some what I call listening. YouTube Culture and Trends also put out this really interesting little tool here. This is all about how you start videos and what are the likeliest terms that the largest creators on the platform are utilizing for their vlogging. And so if you are doing a vlog, which is a video log or video blog, in essence, a video channel that is like a diary, what are the big creators using? And they give these 5 terms: what's up, all right, hey guys. I'm sorry, what's up, all right, hey guys, good morning, and hi guys as the 5 different options. And when you click on them, you see the various creators who start with those particular items. And so you can see the various creators that are doing that. You can see here that what's up accounts for 20% of how those shows start, shows start their greetings of their videos. All right comes in at 11% as the 5th most popular. Hey guys is the number 1 greeting in 2020, and it accounts for 36% of the top 5 greetings. Good morning is 18%, and so that becomes the 3rd most popular at 18%. And then hi guys is the 4th most popular greeting, and that accounts for 14% of how people start their videos. So just gives you a sense of what and how people start videos. I have a tendency to say welcome, because it's usually a live greeting that I'm doing with you all here. But it's interesting just to see how people are starting them and what things you might like to do. I don't like really any of these unless it's actually the morning. I wouldn't say good morning. I would actually say the time of day it is. What's up, I guess, works. I would say more how are you doing? But this is how you have to figure out your own comfort zone, as well as the culture in which you are speaking to on YouTube. So make sure that you're using the right terminology and the right groupings. These folks are, of course, covering a very large, swath of people, but each of them has their own niche. And so consider that when you are creating your videos and how you're going to kind of entree into the videos on a regular basis. YouTube is also testing hiding the dislike counts on videos. I love this. And so I really think that we should be removing the negative components of the platform. And so just like how Facebook has a like button, but they don't have a dislike button, YouTube is getting rid of that thumbs down option. That's not to say that people can't dislike a video. I think it's helpful in some way, shape, or form. I really wish that the dislike was time stamped so that you could see where the dislikes happened, very similar to the way in which YouTube is now doing time-stamped comments, so you can see where people are commenting during the video. This is extremely helpful if you can see someone hit dislike when I said something about politics and someone disagreed with me there. Fine. If you want to disagree with me on politics, I think that is a healthy part of a democracy. And so that's totally fine. But if it's just a dislike for the entire video, I have no idea where the dislike happened and therefore what part of the video they disliked, which means that I can't actually make better videos. So having that dislike count is hidden. The count hidden is good on one level because it's not telling people whether or not it was highly disliked or not, because that's not really useful to people. Seeing the number of likes on the video comparative to other video likes, that is helpful for someone choosing to like it. But I really hope that YouTube takes this to the next level. I've already sent this as a feature request, but you could feel free to do that as well. You could do that from within the tool or from the desktop web environment. You can actually go into YouTube and provide feedback and let them know that you want them to be able to see when people like or dislike things. You want to see where the dislikes happen in the video. So time-stamped dislikes and likes is a really useful piece here. Because if I could see in a video, 10 people disliked, especially if you could dislike multiple times, right? So I could dislike 4 times during a video and like it during the things that I liked. That helps the video creator know what things their viewers enjoyed in that video, and then they can learn more. They can take that one piece of clip out and they can extrapolate on that, create more video around that, which can be really useful. YouTube has also announced the expansion of YouTube Shorts, which is their version of Reels or TikTok style videos, onto the YouTube platform. So now all US users now have the ability to both see and create shorts. And now Shorts has its own Shorts tab in Discovery. So when you go over to search to look inside the YouTube app on mobile, you will now see a Shorts tab to be able to look at the various shorts that are in there. So this is great that we're getting first access to the Shorts environment inside of the mobile experience. We're going to see more and more of this come out, and YouTube, of course, is going out there and starting to pay their Shorts creators, and that's also a good thing. I wanted to just take a couple minutes to note a couple of interesting other little pieces here, which is that Sprout Social put out this really great the best times to post on social media in 2021. And as you know from me talking anytime to you about timing and posting frequency, is you need to test rigorously with your audience, and then from there understand what you are seeing from the data, and then deciding on your timing, best timing for your business, for your products, for your services, for your audience. So that being the case, it is really helpful to start with a baseline. And so what they did was they did all the time frames. Note that these are all in Central time, so these are in Central Standard Time. So you're going to have to adjust them for your time zone. But for the best times to post on Facebook, they give you these heat maps to show you when during the days and weeks are best to post. And this can be really helpful. So they give best times here as on Facebook as Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. The best days are Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and the worst day is Saturday to post. And then they go down to Instagram. They say, again, they show this heat map, so you can look at the heat map on their site and determine this for at least getting started. And best times, Tuesday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Monday through Friday at 11 a.m., so that 11 a.m. hour. Best day is Tuesday, worst day is Sunday. We go to then Twitter. Twitter has the Wednesday is the Wednesdays between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. are the best times, as well as Tuesday through Thursdays, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Again, this is all Central Time. Then we have best day is Wednesday, worst day is Saturday. Then finally is LinkedIn, and the rest you can all review on asynchronously. But LinkedIn, they go Tuesday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon, ends up being the best times. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 a.m. to noon are the best times to post on the platform for engagement. And then best days, Tuesday and Wednesday. Seems like that's equal, Tuesday and Wednesday. Worst day, Sunday. So it would make a lot of sense. Most people are not in the office on Sundays. And so you can then read through this, and they give you some pretty good details in terms of how to determine best times in different industries. They actually give best times to post by healthcare, by media, then they go down to education, and so on and so forth, nonprofit, and they keep going down through restaurants, the best time to post for restaurants. They give some really good details here for those particular industries. So I highly recommend you checking out the data. And it's good to kind of also gut check and looking at when your data, your analytics from within Facebook, or if you're using a tool like Hootsuite or Buffer, and looking at the various platforms and seeing when you see the most engagement and when you're posting, and whether or not you can align these with these and see more engagement and more activity on those profiles could be useful there. Next up is Reface, is an application that allows you to be able to put your face on other things, like in videos and other kinds of GIFs or GIFs. And now Reface now lets users swap their face onto these pics and GIFs that they upload. So you used to be able to swap your face, I think, with friends and from selfies and other kinds of things. Now you're able to do this on more things. So this is going to, of course, be a nightmare for security and privacy and all kinds of other things, but the capability is there. So you are going to start seeing more creative content where people are being put onto these kinds of animations that are in this case, this looks like, Michelangelo's David and with Jackie Chan's face. So, you're going to see more and more of these kinds of things coming alive. And we're going to see more people who are doing these kinds of, mix and mash of their face on other content. So you're going to see me on Arnold Schwarzenegger soon. or something like that. Okay, number of little closing out the items. All of you know how much I love Mighty Networks, and I host two Mighty Networks, the Web and Beyond community, as well as my personal productivity community at Personal Productivity Club. And so Mighty Networks just recently raised a $50 million round. And so Gina Bianchini, the CEO at Mighty Networks, led that raise. And so really exciting to see that they are, they're building and growing. And I'm just really excited that if you're trying to build a community, certainly a paid community on using your own social network, Mighty Networks is a really great foundation for that. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and I have the ability to answer questions about Mighty Networks. And then last but not least is just a refresh. I should have put this over with the Snap information, but Gucci is using digital items. They're bringing digital items and experiences to Roblox. If you don't know what Roblox is, that's because you don't have kids. But Roblox is a digital environment, a virtual environment where you can play games, and it's just a hotbed of these various types of games and interesting virtual worlds and so on and so forth. And the kids love it. And Gucci is bringing digital items and experiences to Roblox in this partnership with them. So if you think that somehow you can't make money utilizing augmented reality and virtual reality, look to Gucci and Roblox, because if Gucci is going to do this, this is because Gucci is going to make some coin. They are not going to do this just for the fun of it. So they clearly know that increasing brand awareness and showing greater consideration for their products, right, further down the sales funnel, is powerful for them. They are putting this platform together, this platform partnership together, because they know that is the future. And if you see Gucci and Target and Amazon and Walmart and all doing this, the writing is on the wall. That is the future of digital retail experience, and we need to get on board. So I really hope that you are taking this to heart as we are making our way forward, and I hope that helps. I will put links to all of these updates in the description as well as in the show notes. If you are not a member of the Web and Beyond community, feel free to come and join us at www.webandbeyond.community, and you can sign up. I will approve you to join once I see it. It sometimes takes a little while, but I will see it, and I will be able to go ahead and approve you into the system. There you'll see our postings about our twice monthly webinars. We have a webinar coming up on, I believe, May 20th, this coming Thursday, which will be all about building a digital community and getting paid, a la Mighty Networks is one of them. I'll be talking about Mighty Networks as my example in that, but there are many others that I'll be talking about in that webinar, so come join us for that one. We also have our upcoming small business virtual roundtable, or virtual small business roundtable. That'll be on June 1st. And you can learn about that by joining us at webandbeyond.community, or you can go to, if you don't want to join the community for some reason, you can go, it's free, but if you don't want to join, I understand. You can go to W3C inc.com/events. You can go ahead and register for the webinar, as well as learn about the roundtable there as well. So with that, we've come to the end of our time together for this week. If you've enjoyed the live stream, feel free to hit the thumbs up icon. That helps us make new small business friends. And so thank you for doing that. If you have a question, feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to shoot me a message in Web and Beyond community or post in Web and Beyond community, and I'll be able to answer you there. You can also tweet or message me at W3 Consulting on Twitter. That's my jam. That's where I spend my time on the social web. And you can join us, of course, typically every Monday. We're coming a little bit different time this week, but we're typically going live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern. And thank you for spending this Web and Beyond live with me. I'm Ray Sidney Smith on behalf of W3 Consulting and W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead, marketing your small business on the Web and Beyond. Take care, everybody.